Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing out there? This is Steve Brumer from IoT Group, a partner in a firm. And I am happy to be here with Dal from Helium and Fabio from Tago. I think this is what, number 3 for us, Fabio, in our executive series of events where we're inviting someone within our ecosystem to come in and talk a little bit about their company and what they're doing. And so we're honored today to have Helium with us, and we're looking forward to the discussion. Again, these executive briefings are sponsored by Tago IO. And what we're doing is trying to get really cool subject matter experts here to be able to talk a little bit about what they're doing, what they're seeing in the market. These are quick hits. You guys will be done in 20 minutes or so. So we would be able to get through the subject areas that we're trying to focus in on and go from there. So without any further ado, let Fabio, our sponsor from Tago, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your firm and give us some insight.
Sure. Hey, Steve, it's great to be here again. Yeah, that's the third one already. So as I said, we really want to bring interesting points here for discussion, right? Something new, something really interesting that you don't see every day. So that's why we're bringing Helium today. So I'm Fabio Rosa. I am the CEO and founder of Tago. Tago is a cloud platform that makes it really easy to create applications for IoT to bring information from sensors to the business. And we are going ahead and growing. Now we are in more than 100 countries with almost 400 different kinds of connectors for sensors and a lot of applications, really more than 1,000 real applications in the IoT space. So basically we did in a way that the platform is easy to be used, it's free to start, so people can just jump, connect with Helium and select the device and start to build all the dashboard visualization and more than that, really go to the business and start to show to their peers, to their manager, and also to their customers using our features.
Fantastic. And Dal, why don't you give us a little introduction on you, what you do for Helium, and give us a 10,000 foot overview of Helium.
Sure. First of all, thanks Fabio and Steve for inviting us, and to all the folks who are joining us. So my name's Gemmell, and this is my 4th year at Helium. My title is Head of Product Marketing and Planning, but I'm at a startup and you wear multiple hats and you just get stuff done. So Helium was founded in 2013 and in less than 2 years built the world's largest public IoT network, what we call the People's Network. Today we announced 29,000 hotspots deployed. So that's all over the world, in many countries, thousands of cities. And we're averaging less than a week to add another 1,000 hotspots. So before this time next week, there'll be over 30,000. And there's actually 200,000 plus on back order from our hotspot manufacturers, suppliers.
Wow.
So we're excited about growing this network. It's really taking off. And the way that we've done it is through a very unique business model. Where we are using a cryptocurrency to incentivize anyone to host a hotspot, provide coverage, and then become rewarded for providing that coverage. So we've been around for a while. We've built our own protocol blockchain, and we're very fortunate to be backed by some of the most reputable VCs out there, like Coastal Ventures, Google, FirstMark, and most recently, Union Square Ventures and Multicoin Capital.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to throw on, well, first of all, again, I'm Steve Brumer with IoT Group. We're an international strategy advisory firm in the IoT space, been in the IoT industry for well over 25 years. Our focus is helping companies with their monetization and commercialization strategy. It's great to be able to have disruptive technology like these two gentlemen have, but we also have to figure out how to make money. and how to bring those products to market successfully, because IoT is still kind of hard. There's a lot of moving parts and all of them have to be squished together in order to provide a customer with a solution that solves a problem. And so we help companies around the world do that. So if you need any help around there, we're the guys to go to. Fabio, I wanted to talk real quick about your technology and adoption of LoRa and adoption of IoT in general. Are you finding that there are still, what are the key things that are still missing for us to get stronger adoption in the marketplace?
Yeah, for sure. I believe that there is always something else that we need to do. I mean, every player that we talk in the industry always think about, okay, what's really missing? The way you see, basically, we can see it from different things, but you see relates to people, technology, and the business demand, right? And I believe that when you see for people side, you see that there is a need there. People understand now that was not the fact a couple of years ago when they talk about IoT, say, okay, it can be anything. Now it's much more clear. So the people component, in our view, the expertise is there, right? The other side is the technology. The technology was here for a couple of years, but it didn't mean that it was ready and available. For example, again, I'll talk very clear about that, talking with Helium, right? We have customers coming to us, oh, wow, that's great. I have the sensor. So I have the technology, I have it, how I can build things here. How I connect that stuff, right? Do I need to call a network server? How, right? So it's a little bit more time. Now that it's much easier to do that. So technology is here. And the last, the business. As you said at the beginning, Steve, right? We need to make money, or we need to somehow generate value, right? We have makers that are doing that application that they don't want to spend a lot of money and wants to create something. So that's great. So the business should be there, but we have the component that the cost that is dramatically changed in the last months or year. Okay, connectivity is much more interesting now, right? The cost of the connectivity. We're now going to talk about that, right? The sensors costs are reducing a lot. So frankly, I believe the barriers now are much lower. So it's really about working together and bring the innovation to the marketplace. So I don't see that there are big issues now that you cannot go ahead and move and create the solution. I think others will see these and say, okay, I can do that.
So, Dal, I'm going to twist the question a little bit differently for you from a Helium standpoint, looking at value proposition. One of the things that Fabio talked about was people, technology, and business needs. Can you kind of address those as it relates to your marketing and how are you handling that? And what's more important? Is it just the people? Is it the coverage that you're building? Is it the technology that you're using? Is it the crypto revenue generation scenario for people?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think that you can't really isolate these pieces, right? These pieces have to be all working together. And one of the reasons why we feel we're successful is, we have built this network. There's a foundation of core technology that, we have built. It's open source. So we built our own protocol blockchain. And the team worked very hard to create and build something that would support an IoT network, right? So back in 2016, 2017, when they were surveying, there was nothing out on the market that could support the type of asynchronous nature and the number of transactions that would happen on this network. So the core foundation of the blockchain, obviously critical, but having people and making it accessible to anyone to host these hotspots, providing the coverage, you can't have one without the other. And if you take a step back, it's really about, like, do you believe in a centralized or a decentralized approach to be successful for this type of network, right? We have seen a lot of wireless providers go down a centralized approach. And because there is so much capital infrastructure, all that stuff needed to create that network, There's a lot of barriers of entry. There you get a monopoly or a very small number of players that are actually controlling this accessibility and connectivity. And we see what happens, right? I don't know anybody who says or gets excited about their telco and says, you know, I love it, it's fantastic, and they're awesome.
Give me more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you have unlimited, but you're capped. Okay,
right.
How does that work? But then you think about like a decentralized approach where, you know, there is nothing. There's no one company that says, hey, I'm going to cap you, right? Or like if you're a social media player like YouTube, you can say, hey, I don't like your face, so we're not going to put you on YouTube anymore, right? A wise man once said that. So we feel at the time, the company said, look, there's no way that we're just going to go and kind of do our own thing and try to do the centralized approach and build this network. It's been tried before, it's not going to work. The economics are not going to pan out. So let's take this decentralized approach. We're going to have to build this foundational technology, make it open source, be very transparent. And we need to make the experience of users, and as Fabio says, kind of streamline and make it very simple for anyone to participate. And that's the only way that you're really going to build this type of coverage at scale.
But Dal, so what problem does Helium solve for us in the industry?
Well, I mean, I think the big problem is coverage, right? Affordable coverage that's ubiquitous. We were talking before we went live, and we would go to these conferences, IoT conferences, and
soon, we'll get there soon. Don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah. Back in the day, but
back in the day.
one of our big taglines was IoT has failed, right? And it was great because it was, you know, it was catchy, and people would come over and say, well, you're at an IoT show, how can you say IoT has failed? And we would ask the question back to them, do you think it's been successful? And they'd be kind of like humming and hawing, and well, yeah, I guess not really. Anyway, the point is that up until Helium, you had very limited number of coverage options, right? You could go and build your own, and now you're suddenly a network provider, but that's not my core competency. I want to build up these sensors. I want to monitor and analyze this data. I don't want to deal with hardware deployment and monitoring and maintaining that, right?
Right.
So that was one approach you could do. The other approach is you work with a network provider, but they have their own private network. And so if the coverage is good for that specific area, great. But if you go to other areas where they don't have coverage, then you're kind of out of luck. And so we feel that providing this affordable, ubiquitous coverage is something that's really going to help, as Fabio said, you know, make this technology more accessible. And, you know, I really feel that, you know, there wasn't any favors from the media about all the hype around IoT, right? The overhype. But I really feel that this is something that is in its very early days.
Still.
So if you think of, yeah, that's right. So if you think about like the internet in its very early days, it was very hard for people to kind of wrap their head around how you could actually use this network of networks. And, you know, then email came along and kind of web browsing, but at the time, people weren't thinking about Uber or DoorDash or Airbnb, right?
Right.
And so it's really exciting, the potential of this network and all of the applications that can be built on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, there's so many times where I get asked of comparing the internet age to the IoT age, because listen, you can be a soothsayer and say, I'm going to have 50 billion devices on the network. I don't really care about that as much as I care about what we're doing for the industries that we're addressing and the problems that we're trying to solve. So, and so Fabio, taking that into consideration, the problems that Tago solves for clients, are they more in vertical market segments that are more the usability of IoT is is more prevalent. But so how do you approach problem solving for your clients?
Yeah, so one thing, we create several use cases and templates, try to help customers since the beginning, the first phase. We try to be very close to them, even knowing that we have users around the globe that they just sign up and for free or start paying Sunday night. We don't talk to them before, but when you have opportunity or try to automate, you send information so they can get the most in their journey, right? So we classify where they are at the beginning, which vertical they are, or they have more experience, because that is very important. And we see some verticals that we consider extremely important. And we can see things like work in the buildings sector, or also the retail sectors are the sector that you see that when you have this coverage, the initial phase of that, but if you have something, you can already start to generate value. When you think about it, the transportation sector, that's much bigger, that depends much more coverage. You say, okay, now maybe it's not there yet, but if you get some of these that are more facilities, hospitality, these are the sector that we have been talking to customers, and they say, okay, that makes total sense, because we really want to be very clear at the beginning, right? You need to do this investment, but the minimum that you can do there, the better.
Okay, thank you. Dal, tell us what the cost structure is around Helium. It's the people's network. So tell us how's it all set up? I mean, 200,000 back ordered. I'm not even going to ask why. I mean, we all understand the chip and the chip shortage and the crystal shortage and everything else that's going on, sure. Especially, from Iraq Wireless and all the other people that are involved in supplying routers and gateways. But, tell us what the cost structure is around Helium, because so many people don't understand really what it's all about.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Great question. So when we think of Helium, we really frame it as a two-sided market. So there is folks who are providing coverage and are hosting hotspots, and then organizations who are actually using the coverage provided by those hosters. So let's start with the hosters who are providing the coverage. Mm-hmm. So if I'm interested in this project and I want to provide coverage and mine a cryptocurrency, then I would work with a third party. I would buy a hotspot from a third party. And so Helium made a strategic decision to say, look, we are not going to be the only ones providing these hotspots. We are going to open this up. We're going to work with other hardware manufacturers who, they eat, breathe, and just totally focus on building hardware, supporting it, all the logistics, right? And so we've got a number of partners, and it's continuing to increase numbers, but that's helping
manufacturers of gateways.
That's right.
Okay.
And so that's doing two things. One is it's providing competition in the market. And two, it's removing us as a bottleneck of being the only provider of this hotspot to make it really decentralized. Right?
So I could buy the gateway from you as well. No, I cannot. Okay.
No.
Explain.
We made a decision to say, let's get third-party manufacturers involved, and let's remove Helium because, again, that's not our core competency. Let's get folks who know what they're doing and can do it at scale if we really want to blow up this network. And the more hardware manufacturers that come on board, as I said, the more option and choice for folks, and the competition will help drive prices down, right? So that's on the coverage and usage side. So you can go and you can buy a hotspot from any one of these manufacturers. Unfortunately, there's a huge back order because the problem isn't of demand, it's supply.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's on the coverage side. Now on the usage side, because we have this very unique model to provide coverage, we can offer usage costs, drive down usage costs. So as an example, if I'm a company and I want to use the network, all I need to do is buy something called data credits. And you get data credits by converting HNT, or you can just purchase them directly using a credit card. You buy data credits, and data credits are a specific price. So there's no fluctuation involved in crypto. It's kind of like mobile minutes for a phone. So if you had a sensor and it was sending temperature, humidity, location data, what have you, if you had a sensor and it was sending every 5 minutes, by the end of the year, it would have sent over 100,000 messages, and the total cost would be just over $1.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's using this unique crypto economic model and incentivizing hosters to provide the coverage. The cost can be driven down, and we think it's a game changer in terms of making it more accessible to a huge audience.
Excellent. So Fabio, I'm in the vertical market segment that you guys have a lot to do with. Let's just say a smart building. I want to put up a smart building, and I'm going to go use the Helium network with a gateway of choice. Can I come to Tago for the platform integration, the application solutions, off of the Helium network?
Yeah, perfectly. For sure. That's what you have done, and let's say in March, we integrate both platforms. So in a way that's pretty safe, secure and straightforward to get your device, connect first their Helium, and then get authorization to send it to your Tago.io account. We have then models that you can get as template from dashboards, but not only that, right? If you need to create reports, if you need to send a notification and grant access to other users, you can do this from Tago, even the free account. And the one thing that just complement, get the point from Dal about the cost, I think again, about the business model, right? Like if you send a sensor temperature, humidity, 5 minutes for 1 year, about part $1. Tago has similar model. Okay, it's not related to the blockchain, or crypto, but related to how we work. We don't charge per device, we charge per transaction. So it works extremely well. So I would say that probably to have a sensor send that data to Tago, store this data on Tago, but have all the visualization, all user management, translation, dictionary, and so on, you'll be probably ballpark $1 as well per year. So that is the match. That's very important. And when customers have difficulties and say, hey, I cannot build that, right? I'm not a developer. They can contact us through the website, the customer success manager, and we're going to have a conversation to help in that vertical to make sure that that can be implementable.
Excellent. So, and Dal, as we start to wrap this session up, many companies come to IoT Group with challenges of trying to figure out, how to make it a little simpler. This is a real, still very complicated. Is it cost effective? What's the ROI? What's all those things that are there? And in the monetization, commercialization strategies that IoT Group does. What's the biggest challenge that Helium has?
I think it's a great question, and I can't believe the time is already almost up. I feel like
I know the three of us could talk all day. I understand.
I feel like we're just getting warmed up. I think right now for us the challenge, as I said, isn't about the demand and isn't about proving the crypto economic model, right?
Yeah.
It's the market has clearly provided a strong signal that this works. And there's a great article by one of our investors, Multicoin Capital, called the Helium Flywheel. So if folks want to Google that and take a look. They're they're very sharp guys over there. And he wrote an excellent article about, getting really into the nuts and bolts and the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've discovered is that because there's such a huge influx of demand, and then pair that with semiconductor shortages, and then add a pandemic, which impacts the logistics and supply chain. Right now, that's our biggest challenge, right?
Yeah.
How to really fill the demand that's out there, so that this network that's going to go from 30,000 goes to over 200. And when you see a network that's over 200,000, 250, 300,000, and the coverage is so ubiquitous that you really get the sense that all these ideas are going to start springing up, and it's going to be a situation where, if you talk to somebody today and you said, hey, could you run your business without the internet? They'd be like, no, there's no way. It's critical infrastructure for us, right? It's like electricity. I believe in the not so distant future, the same is going to be said about IoT. Like, could you run your business without this sensor data, without having to send people with clipboards and writing down, monitoring data readings? Could you still do that? And I think in not so distant future, yeah, obviously it depends on the segment and the vertical, but I think what we're going to see is people are going to say, no, there's no way, there's no going back.
Yeah, I think you're right, because right now, I think you both alluded to costs, and the ROIs are more prevalent today than ever before in our industry. And as I said, I've been doing this over 25 years. Today, it has never been easier to do IoT.
Right.
You have everything you need. I tell clients that all the time. You can find the sensors and find the edge computing boxes and the gateways and the networks like Helium and the Tagos and the platforms and the applications and the solutions and the business models. Today, it's an explosive situation. Unfortunately, all of us in the industry are living through a crazy time over the last 18 months, but this will end. And,
right.
You have a 200,000 backlog. That's serious numbers and serious amounts of people getting involved in this thing. And and then you got, Fabio sitting there going, come on, let's go. We got to go. That's a lot of people that could possibly use our platform, and there's going to be companies that are going to need help. So we're going to be happy.
Yeah.
So, I think that's unfortunate issues that we have to deal with, but I think you guys are, you've come up with an innovative idea. Extremely different than everything else that's out there. The crypto thing, I think you still have to educate. We all have to educate all the time, but I think you have to get a little bit more of the word out as to what the hell it's all about, how it works, why you should do it. From that standpoint. So, it's just a fascinating program that you've come up with. I'm a member. I love the idea of what it can generate for all of us. I think when you see the alternative of, some of the other public carrier scenarios versus what Helium is trying to do, it's great competition. It's great ideas. I'll throw, a plus in for the Semtex of the world. When we look at some of the, the chipsets and the device manufacturers and the things that are going on, our ecosystem continues to build, which is absolutely amazing. So, Fabio, I'm going to give you.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Steve. Just wanted quick point. I mean, I think you're spot on, and we're built on open source. Like our core technology, all that stuff is open source. And so we made a decision to go with the LoRaWAN because it is also open source wireless protocol, and by doing that, anyone can take any off-the-shelf sensor that's LoRaWAN compatible and start using it like right away. Yeah. And I think to your point is these things kind of tend to feed on each other. So initially you may have this chicken and egg problem, right? Well, if I'm a sensor manufacturer, do I do this if there's not enough coverage? Oh, do I build coverage if there's not enough sensors out there? But as coverage grows and sensor manufacturers say, oh, wow, there's a big enough market, let's build out more sensors. Maybe this was initially a niche market, but now it's not. And so I think these things kind of feed on each other. You get this positive cycle going, and it's exciting times.
Yeah, but Fabio, I'm going to throw in, the option here. A lot of the helium buyers are guys like me that have it upstairs in the attic, right? Where you have the gateways with the coverage. But what about for sensors and things that I'm using at home? Or does Tago look at the commercial enterprise B2B side of the growth of this for the helium network coverage scenarios?
Yeah, we are work with both, but we see a B2B for sure, right? You get the hospitality, even the college, right? So we work with universities, and that really goes to the market, right? It's not like it's isolating a bubble. And just about the supply chain issue that you have today that is holding all these 200 gateways, right? On the other side, it's create a lot of opportunity for Tago because one of the verticals that is being growing a lot here is the supply chain, because they found the problem because they didn't have sensors tracking their supply chain from the beginning to the end. So this is bringing more and more demand. So I see now Helium getting much more gateways pretty soon. So we see really a big opportunity from the business side. Okay, and they start a lot small, but also we have a conversation with the hotels right now about, hey, we need to deploy this. How are you going to do? Do you need to get all these done at once? How does it work? I said, you really don't need. So it's to having these gateways. It's easy to connect any kind of a sensor. So that's the other big advantage, right? To have a 400, almost 500 connectors ready to go, and all of them can be used with Helium.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I'm assuming, Dal, you'll agree with this, is that today we're looking at it from a campus standpoint or a building standpoint or centralized coverage scenario on the B2B side until the people's network is truly across the country and everywhere. And we can look at logistics and transportation and movement, because LoRaWAN is fantastic on the road. But we need the coverage from that particular point. But there's no shortages of opportunity, Dal, for you guys from a campus and a building and a warehouse and a factory, and the use of LoRaWAN in those situations. And if the companies can get the gateways and go on your network and hop on and get the crypto return on investment as well, I think it's a win-win, and Fabio wins too.
Yeah, I mean 100%. It's it was great to partner with folks like Fabio and Tago because they're providing this much needed critical piece, right? Helium is focused on getting that data from the sensor to wherever customer wants it, and
securely with encrypted data. People need
that's right
that too.
100%. And so what we're seeing, like smart mousetraps or tracking paragliders or stuff like leak detection and kind of the core monitoring temperature, humidity to protect artifacts. I mean, it's really exciting times, and we're very happy that what we had predicted would happen is really happening, and we're very fortunate to work with leading platforms like Fabio and their team, because they add all these capabilities with the data that that's just not what we're interested in. And so it's really important to have those tight partnerships within this ecosystem.
And you're just in North America, or you're just in US today, or where are you?
In terms of coverage?
Yeah. Where are people buying
Steve,
it everywhere?
Oh, Steve, we're everywhere. We're everywhere, Steve.
Amazing.
It's global, man.
Good.
It's all over the place.
Excellent. All right, we are way over what we were planning on doing, but the chat message board is saying everybody's loving this, so I figured, well, we'll just keep talking. What the hell? Fabio, one of the last questions I had for you as it relates to what we're looking at long term. This is complicated still. I know we are all looking forward to IoT in a box, with my devices and everything that's going on. But, how do when people come to you, do you make it easier for them? I mean, are you is the business model coming through Tago a lot easier for companies to deal with?
Yeah, Steve, that's a great point, right? So for me, it's really about the target, right? What's the difference? What they need, what customer need. And sometimes say, hey, frankly, the last resource, maybe you need to go in the other direction, right? But if a customer really looking for customization and they cannot afford to, build the whole structure, that we probably are going to be the best solution for them, right? If they just want to have a dashboard and right away and they want to modify anything, what normally means that they don't want to really add a lot of values on top, they may go to the other way, right? The key things is really about customization, be simple, but start simple and scale. So you can have a 50,000 sensors easily for customers, right? And normally they start with a couple of 100 sensors. So it's good. So they don't need to make a huge investment at the beginning.
And the last question, Dal, I promise. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to promise that. So
we're having fun here, Steve.
Yeah, we are. So some of the pushback that I have heard on the street about Helium has been a lack of education and knowledge around crypto and HNTs and everything else. Now, from my standpoint, my wife and I are extremely heavily, we love Bitcoin. We love Coinbase. The whole model around crypto. So we understand it, and we would understand where the value is long-term, as far as going through the exchange and making money off of the crypto from you. But is that still a deterrent, do you think, today as part of your education, that people are like, oh, I'm not touching crypto, I don't understand it, so I'm not doing Helium?
Yeah, it's a great question, Steve.
I think that's like my third great question today, so I'm very happy with where I am today.
You're on a roll. So quickly, because I want to be respectful of folks' time. So we look at it from again, two-sided market, coverage, and usage. And so the coverage side is we talk about the rewards that they can earn, right? Mm-hmm. as a utility token. Now, folks may speculate on the value of that token, but that's not, we do not want to go there, right? It's a utility token for usage on the network, right? From a usage side, the reason that we have both the HNT for coverage and then data credits for usage is that people who want to use the network, they don't have to deal with crypto at all.
Right.
That's right. They deal with data credits. Again, think of them like mobile minutes for a cell phone plan. They purchase these, they use them, and they need more, then they just purchase them.
Like gigabyte plans and things like that from you? Are they buying bulk data?
They can buy as much as they want, right? They can use their credit card. They can buy it, and the data credits are a fixed price, so there is no fluctuation, and so they don't have to worry. They can plan their business. They can budget accordingly, and the cost is just based on usage. Now, what is really exciting is that this core foundation technology and blockchain and this crypto economic model, we have been focusing on IoT because we saw there was a big need and demand there. But there's not to say that this model can be applied to other wireless protocols or technologies. And that's exactly what we're doing. So today, we announced that we are working with a company called FreedomFi for 5G coverage. So that's a whole entire another conversation. But if folks go to helium.com, they'll see that, and to our blogs, our CEO just announced applying this crypto economic model to 5G coverage with a partner called FreedomFi. So really exciting news.
Excellent. That's awesome. Okay, guys, 40 minutes we've been talking. So much for this 20-minute executive session. Okay, Dolls at helium.com for more information and to be able to contact you guys and get that kind of get information on it. Fabio, why don't you close us out? And then are we doing another fourth session at
Yeah.
some particular point. So why don't you tell us all about that?
Yeah, sure. So we invited LNX Sensor Industrial Sensor Manufacturer from Australia to be our next partner here, talking with us at the end of next month. So we are going to be
looking forward. I love what he's doing in that space. He's got some really innovative and disruptive technology in the sensor space. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and talking to LNX.
Perfect.
Great. All right. And how do we get a hold of you, Fabio?
Our website, cargo.io.
Excellent. All right. And I'm Steve Brumer. I am a company with, can you please name the company again from Australia?
Oh, Elinex.
ELLENEX.
Exactly. You're going to be invited soon.
And that'll be next month, right? We're on a setup for May something.
Yeah.
Correct. So you'll see the information. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you in the audience, everybody that is stuck with us for 41 minutes, which is about 20 minutes normally, more than we normally did. But Dal, thank you so much. Great information. Awesome time. Fabio, appreciate the opportunity. This is Steve Brumer, your moderator, signing off, and we'll see you next month. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.